All right, and I think we are live. What's going on, MEC? How's everybody doing? Arne Giske here with another episode of MEC TV, Mr. Henry, and we are going to be covering webinars today. So webinars are really exciting. They have made many, many millionaires, and today we're going to be uncovering what goes into a webinar that makes 50 grand plus a month. So really excited to have you on, man, and yeah, thanks for swinging by.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. And we've been talking about doing this for a while, so I'm happy it's finally going on.
Definitely, definitely. So first up, before we jump in, I want to hear from everybody out there who's watching this on the replay. Just let me get a yes or a no in the comments. Have you ever set up a webinar? I know I've done a few. I've got one running right now, and they are fun, but they're also a huge challenge. They're also a huge opportunity too. So I want to see where the audience is at right now. Have you guys done a webinar, whether it's a simple live stream or a complex, 25-step webinar? Let me know in the comments. Just yes if you've ever ran a webinar, and no if you have not ran a webinar, and we will jump right in. So before we get into all of the goodies, we got to figure out, who are you? What's your story? How do you know so much about webinars? So I'd love to hear kind of how you got started with some of your stuff in digital marketing, how you got into the space, and really figured out how to crush it with webinars.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've actually been really involved with like video streaming. I would say since like early 2004, 2005. So I've been leveraging that a lot, and I got to learn. I got to learn about it. That was like before. That was like right when like iChat came out with. It was like iChat when the Macs and the Apples came out with like the camera that was installed in the computer. Like that's when I first started getting involved with it. And then, but from there, I was always kind of had an entrepreneurial blood running through me. And so since I was like 18, I generated a lot of sales, and I was working for a merchant service company. And how I generated leads and sales was I would go door knocking. And from there, I actually moved back from California to Chicago because this is where I was originally from. And when I wasn't knocking on doors, I was messaging people trying to set up meetings. And one of the times I actually messaged Brandon, who's the CEO of JetWebinar, and I was trying to pitch him on the marketing services that I was offering at the time. And he actually turned around and sold me on the vision of JetWebinar. He's like, well, if you're knocking on doors, if you're knocking on doors and you're spending all this time trying to get one appointment, like he sold me the whole vision on what's possible with live events. So I actually turned around and hired him to build out a digital marketing and a webinar campaign for that marketing business. And then long story short, that company actually took that idea and built a webinar studio in their headquarters. So I left, and then that's when Brandon and I started working together to build up JetWebinar.
Nice.
So, that's kind of the story behind it.
Cool. And let's get into some like juicy, crazy stories for everybody. More of a webinar, like who's an example of somebody who's like made millions of dollars with a webinar?
One client that kind of comes to mind is when we were actually starting out with the company, we've bootstrapped the company up until this point. So what we had to do was work with other clients and help grow their online business and take a piece of that and then leverage that to reinvest into our own company. And so one of the stories is we have one of our clients. He had a pretty decent audience. We were helping grow his online presence, and he would go and put on like 3, 4, 5-hour webinar events, and we're just like, you got to cut that down to like 2 hours because people were like leaving, but before they even got the offer. But we honed that down to a point where we were consistently able to make, $5, $10, $15, $20,000 off every webinar. And so we've been leveraging and bootstrapping that whole process and learning about it. And then we reinvested that knowledge and that marketing experience into our own business.
Nice. That's so cool. Like that's such a good sign of an entrepreneur that's like scrappy, needs to know to get stuff done. And they're like, we don't have the cash flow. All right, what are we gonna do to make this happen? Kind of like, all right, let's partner up with these guys. Let's help them run their stuff. reinvest that back into the business. And that's like such a no excuses attitude. If you guys out there watching it, you guys have that attitude too, let me get a comment. Go ahead and just type no excuses down below. Cause like that's the type of people we want in this group. That's the type of people we want showing up, learning. Cause you know, we're going to have stuff to tell you guys to do. We're going to say, hey, go do this, go make this tweak, go implement this. And if you have no excuses attitude, you're going to take that and you're going to run with it. But if you sit here for like, we do, you know, weekly interviews, we do all these trainings, we pump out all this stuff on YouTube, podcast group, everywhere. And then there's a lot of people who think, okay, cool. And then they don't do anything with it. We don't want those people, you know, we want those no excuses, heavy hitters, just like Henry. So I love that story, man. And if you guys are no excuses too, drop it in the comments. Let us know you're watching. So what did you do after that? Like, so you started partnering up with these people, being able to fund the company. And then how did the vision of what you had go from like, all right, so, you know, here's what we want to do, into actually putting in house?
You actually cut out on the last part. You said, what was the transition from where we're at now to what?
Yeah. So like, so that was a vision, and then you started to get the funding, and then you started putting together this business, and now you're out there and you're helping, you know, thousands of people with their webinars. What did that transition look like? How did you guys grow?
So, that's a good question, actually. I don't know if anyone's even asked me that before. It's a good question. So I would say a lot of the vision actually came from seeing, you know, I'm part of like the ClickFunnels group. I don't use ClickFunnels, but I'm a part of their group, and we see a lot of success stories like time and time again. So we've seen, you know, people with 6-figure webinars, 7-figure webinars, 8-figure webinars. And so, you know, my main question was like, how do I get more people, or what do I need to do to educate more people to get, you know, the 6-figure, the 7-figure, the 8-figure online events, and what's going to be the process to essentially educate and simplify that process through and through. And so, because there's a lot of blocks that people have, whether they're overwhelmed with the technology, or they don't want to put a presentation together, or they're too lazy, or they don't think they can get traffic to their event, or whatever that reason might be. So I literally went through and broke down every objection I've ever gotten that someone said, like why they haven't created a webinar or done a webinar. And I created a training that would overcome that objection. And so, so from there, my vision was like, how do we get, you know, 10,000, 20,000 more people using our system, and they're just as confident hosting a webinar as they would be a Facebook Live or a YouTube Live or something like that. So yeah, does that answer your question? Yeah, definitely. Part of it, but we don't get into the nitty gritty story of like, you know, every business that we hear going from, you know, these ideas of putting all this stuff in place, just really good learning moments in the middle of that. And I don't know about you, but I always love hearing those type of stories. So I'm sure you got dozens of them. Like, what was one of the craziest things that you guys went through as a company and came out of on top? First thing that comes to mind was I'd probably say 3 years ago, we were at a point where we kind of reevaluated what we were doing. We looked at our bank account and we go, we've got less than 2 months left of cash to go. So we're like, what do we do? And so from that point, Brandon and I kind of sat down, we were brainstorming, and what we did is we built this like perfect formula as far as how to get more people onto webinar events, how to grow people's online business. And we turned that like freak out moment into 60,000 in sales the next month. So it's like from 0 to like 60K. And that helped like fuel the next phase of our growth, and everything kept building from there. But that was kind of like the low point that we had to get to that point, which is, you know, we laugh at it now, but it was definitely. And like, I feel like, you know, so many of us have had that like Phoenix rise from the ashes moment where everything was about to crash. Yeah. And we like took those steps and
cool stuff on that. So definitely love hearing that. And, that wouldn't have been possible without all the other things you've done before that. So reminder for everybody out there, those crashes and burns are all part of the journey. It's up to you guys to step up from that and, take ownership, be a leader, and go out and crush it following all that crazy stuff that happens. It happens to everybody. So let's get into some more of the goodies. Everybody's here because they want to learn how to make more money with webinars. And you want to just give a quick overview of what the rest of this interview/training is going to be about?
Yeah. So what I wanted to do was kind of I wanted to give people a good high level overview of the vision of what they need in order to have a successful webinar campaign. So this could be for people who aren't hosting webinars or are hosting webinars. So if you are hosting webinars, it kind of comes down into two issues. You have a registration problem or you have a revenue problem. So if you don't have a registration problem, then you have a revenue problem on turning your registrations into revenue. If you're not hosting events, then it's a good thing you're listening, because that's kind of the next step. So so essentially what I wanted to do was essentially show people and kind of give people a roadmap on what are the next steps that they should be taking in order to put on a successful event for themselves. And not just talking about like the presentation and and setting up the technology, but actually going through and doing research on figuring out which one of your competitors are already hosting converting webinar campaigns. Like and the thing is with marketing is people feel like they always need to like recreate the wheel. They need to go recreate and make something new that no one else has ever seen before. And the truth is like, that's not the case. If people just take what's already working, they replicate it and they model it for their own business, as long as they're not copying word for word, then that's the first step that you should be taking. So that's kind of the message I want to get out there.
Definitely. Cool. So let's do it. Let's get into part one. What you got?
Okay. So the first step is, like I said, you want to go through and you want to find which one of your competitors is already generating the most results online using webinars. So there's a couple different strategies that, oh, bless you.
Thank you.
There's a couple different strategies that I do for that. So I've got the something called like the Google image search hack that I use, the Pinterest search hack that I use. And what I do is let's say you're in real estate and you're trying to generate leads for other realtors. What I would do is I would go into Google Images and I would search real estate leads webinar. And then I would pull up, oh, bless you. I would see all the images that are there. And then I would click on 15 or 20 of them. And I would look for patterns. If the same company shows up more than once and all of that. And then those images sometimes actually link to a registration page. So then I would go through, and then this is where we talk about like mystery shopping, right? So going through and actually signing up under a real email address, so you can collect their emails, you can see what their registration page looks like, you can see what their thank you page looks like, and then you can actually attend their event and see how they're breaking down their presentation. So are they using social proof? Are they doing more education? Are they doing more selling? How are they getting those people to those events? And so to kind of backtrack, once you've found the actual, once you've actually found their webinar campaign, the next goal is to go through and figure out how are they driving traffic to those campaigns. And the best part is like there's so many free tools out there. You've got like SpyFlu, SEMrush, even Facebook is showing you all of if you go to your competitor's business page, it shows you the ads and what countries they're running that to. So what I go through is I go and click on all of their pages, and I want to see their ads. I want to I click on and see how they're targeting, what audience are they targeting, what keywords are they using. So that's some good high level stuff as far as finding the webinar campaign, finding their traffic source, and then how to go through and document that entire process so you can go run for yourself.
Yeah, you'll learn a ton from that. And quick pause before we get to step two. Augustine watching the stream right now asks, do you know any sales coaches that are 10Xing it with webinars that you know of? So like, do you know any big people in the space that coach on sales that are running webinars?
So we actually just did a really great partnership with someone named Drew Burks. And with Drew, what he does is he actually has built a multiple 7 and an 8-figure webinar campaign. And I think he was at the Funnel Hacking Live this year. I think he was on stage to collect another 2Com award.
Nice.
And one of his clients. So what we've done is we partnered up with him because he has a lot of really great insights on how to go through and structure your presentation and how to go and set up and modify your events so they're generating 7 figures, 8 figures. So definitely, Drew Burks is someone I'd strongly recommend because
Nice.
he's one of the rare guys that have done 8 figures through a webinar.
Awesome. Cool. So what is step 2? So we got, check out the competitors, see what they got going on, and really just learn more about the message, the presentation, how it all flows. That's a really good one. And most people kind of skip that step. They just throw something out and put something together. But how much easier would it be to just see what other people are doing, be inspired, not copy, but be inspired. So let's get on to step number 2. What happens next?
Yeah, so I kind of piled on all the steps into one. So I'll break it down. So the first thing is obviously the Google and Pinterest search hack to go figure out who those people are. So then from there, going through and signing up for everything. So sign up for go through and sign up for their events, and I would use multiple emails. So one email I would actually use to show up to their event. I would register another email and not show up to their event. And then I would register another email and show up and then leave early. And then what I would do is I would want to see how your competitors are sending out marketing messages based on different interactions. And that gives you a more holistic view on what your webinar campaign should look like and give you some creative ideas that way.
Awesome. That's a really good exercise for sure. So that'll knock out a lot of the customer research part.
Yeah.
And let's hear, guys, everybody who's watching, we all know that's just one piece of the puzzle, but what other things are going through your mind right now? So you can, get started by doing all this. And then where do you think you need to go next? Where would you get stuck? What would hold you back from going out there and, putting on your own? Because I know I've done webinars, but if I had just heard, being curious about webinars, got the competitor research down, now what? What's the next big step?
You cut on the last part. So what's the next step after what?
Yeah. So let's say somebody goes through this whole research process, starts to see what the other people in the space are doing. They have all those notes, they have all that flow. What do they do next to actually start getting theirs off the ground?
Yeah, so I would say the next step after that is once you have a good vision of what their campaign looks like, you want to figure out where they're driving traffic from. So are they advertising on Facebook? Are they advertising on Google? Are they doing is it blog content? Are they advertising on another website that allows third-party advertising? So what I would do there is go into those competitors' business pages and then search info and click on info and ads and then see what ads they're driving. And I would also I would go on their website. I would just click on every single one of their pages so I can be put in their remarketing audience. And then from there, what I would do is if they're advertising on Facebook, what you would do is you'll eventually see their ads in your feed, and then you can go click and see why am I seeing this ad? And when you do that, the cool part is it actually shows you what how your competitors are targeting specific audiences. So is it lookalike audiences? Is it a certain demographic? Is it a certain age of people? Is it people who are interested in other influencers or whatever it might be? So that's kind of the Facebook's part of it is traffic. As far as AdWords and Google and all of that, there's a lot of really great tools like SpyFu, SEMrush. I know Russell Brunson talks about SimilarWeb. So what you can do is go through and search you can take the webinar link or take the normal website link and type it into these different search options and see where their traffic is coming from. And I mean, there's a lot of, it gives you keyword analytics and blog information and all that. So if you dig deep enough, you'll get all that information.
Nice, for sure. So that'll help them grab a lot more.
That looks like you froze a little bit.
I lose you.
There you go. We're back.
All right. Yeah. So
you got that Mexico internet.
Yeah. So after all that research phase, what do they need to do to start like putting everything together for their own?
So I would say the next step from there is I would actually put together the presentation. So like once you put together the presentation, that gives you all the content that you need, whether it's for automated emails like your indoctrination email sequence, content for your registration page, content for your thank you page, content for your registration page video. So the presentation should really be the foundation of all the content that's going to be backing your webinar campaign.
Yeah, absolutely. So getting all those together. Any tips on like big common mistakes people make in those sections? Because I've seen some pretty bad ones.
The presentation.
Yeah, presentation or messaging around that, anything like that.
Man, one of our clients one time did it was a 7-hour webinar event.
Wow.
And I'll tell you a funny story that I'll go into what's the best way to structure your presentation. So what we did is we put a lot of money into the advertising spend to get people to show up. So I believe we put about $10,000 in ad spend for all these people to show up to one event. Yeah. And we had, well over 1,000 people sign up. And the person who was doing the demonstration allowed 30 seconds of buffer time of him to get ready for the presentation before it went live. Yeah. So he didn't mentally get prepared. He didn't get his state right and all that stuff. Yeah. And so because of that, he just wanted to keep adding value. He didn't know when to stop. So he went for literally, I had to sit there for 7 hours and watch him. It was 1,000 people, and then 500, and then 200, and then 50, and there was a crazy 40 people who actually sat through the entire thing. But at the end of the event, 7 hours later, he gave the offer, and no one bought because it's 7 hours. Who's going to stick around for that long of the event? So. Yeah. So even though you want to give as much value and you want to deliver as much value as possible, don't go longer than 2 hours or 3 hours or anything like that as far as the presentation goes. As far as
what are you gonna give them after that? You just gave them everything.
yeah, exactly. There's nothing to do from there. Yeah. But anyways, it built a nice email list, that's for sure. So
yeah, definitely good story. So keep it tight. And what would you say about practicing?
So yeah, so as far as actually getting the structure of your presentation down and then practicing. So with your presentation, just how you go through and model a webinar campaign, go through and model a presentation. So if you're doing a sales presentation, go through and model, go through and watch 3 or 4 or 5 different sales presentations that have already gotten results. If it's a simple education to lead generation event, then go go sign up for other education to lead generation events or training events that they call them, within other people in your industry. And then take screenshots of every single slide, and then that can give you another model to work with. Yeah. So yeah, does that kind of answer as far as structuring the presentation and all that?
Definitely. And we got another question down below. Somebody asked, how much would you spend on initial advertisement?
for to drive people to your events. So what I do is I would set, you know, it depends on your audience. So if it's a cold audience or it's a retargeting audience, you're in a position a little bit differently. But normally what I would do is if you're just starting out, I would set up one campaign and I would have 3 ad sets of $20 each, you know, and then start from there. You want to see how many clicks you're getting. You want to see how many people are actually signing up, if people are receptive to the ad copy that you have, to the registration page, because initially the goal, like if you're just starting out, the goal isn't just to get registrants. The goal is to buy data, because you want to use that data to continuously optimize over time. So I wouldn't say more than $20 per ad set, $20 to $25 an ad set.
So like, because I've ran webinars, I know that concept very well of buying data. Can you explain that a little bit more for people who might not know as much?
Yeah. So when you're driving traffic to your events, to your landing pages, to your registration pages, whatever it might be, it could be for webinar events, it could be for a simple email opt-in, you know, it could really be anything. When you're buying data and you're trying to figure out exactly who your audience is, sometimes you're going to target people if they like certain influencers, if they like specific companies, if they have certain like purchase behavior. And so what you want to do is you want to set up ad sets, or you want to set up your campaigns so you can be targeting different audiences to see which one is responding best. Because if you're just starting out, you're not going to know exactly, you know, for the client that I talked about earlier, we know if we go spend $1,000, we're going to be able to get, you know, anywhere from 300 to 500 people to sign up. And of those people, we know that at least 10 people will buy. Like that's a formula, we run it every time. But if you're just starting out and you're trying to get that data to get to that point, then you want to just invest into different audiences. You want to see who's responding best and things like that. So does that?
Awesome.
Does that clear it up?
Good explanation for sure. Hey, if this is making, just get a comment and say got it down below, so I know you guys are paying attention. You're not over there asleep. Just type got it and we will keep running. All right, so we get another question. In the presentation, do you showcase case studies and why your services are great, and we'll get them one step closer to the goal and hold or how for the offer? I'm not sure what that means at the end. Augustine, can you rephrase that a little bit? Okay, Grant is listening. He says got it. Augustine says got it. Yeah, Augustine, if you can rephrase that question a little bit, I'm a little confused on what you mean there.
I think what he means is essentially putting, how do you sprinkle case studies and social proof throughout your event? Is that maybe that's
okay, cool. So I just reread it. I think I know what he means now. He says hold the how for the offer. So that's in like, instead of showing the what, instead of teaching the how.
Okay. Yeah. So that's painting a, let's say like a lifestyle vision versus getting into strategy. Is that what you mean?
Yep. I think that's what it means.
So it's both, right? In the beginning, when people were starting with webinar events, a lot of people were saying, you know, if you want this lifestyle and you want to buy this or you want to achieve this, then keep listening. But I think as events, and a lot of people have been doing more webinars, that frame as far as doing events has kind of been devalued a little bit. So like when people attend events, they're like, all right, this person is going to be making promises like the last 10 events. So what you want to do is you want to tie what their end outcome is, whether it's a specific pain point that they're experiencing within their business, if they can't get leads or sales, if you're an online marketer, and also stacking your social proof with it. So in the beginning, you want to show your authority, why they should be paying attention to you, and that's the place for the case studies. And then as far as implementing strategies, I think with the presentation, it's really, this is how I look at presentations. You want to have an introduction, and then you want to be able to show them by the end of this event, they're going to get X, Y, and Z. So they know if, as long as they got X, Y, and Z, they felt like this was a good use of their time and it was a successful event.
Yeah.
And then from there, after the introduction, you're going to say, I'm going to cover these 3 strategies. So I'm going to cover strategy 1, strategy 2, strategy 3, and I'm going to show you how to execute on these 3 strategies. So I think that's a good happy medium between what he's talking about there.
Nice. Yeah, good mix of value and high level overview, really painting the picture, all that kind of stuff.
Totally.
So I know that the money is always in the follow-up. Do you have any like really like ninja hacks for not only getting people who missed it to show back up, but like what kind of follow-up campaigns are getting the most out of your, most dollars per registrant?
So I love the indoctrination email sequence. It's always good. You got the 3, the indoctrination email sequence is after someone signs up, you get 3 video emails with videos that just super high level, or, I guess I wouldn't say super high level, but I would say that's just super informational content that leverages the content that you're going to be sharing on the event. And and then of course the last 3 emails are like sales emails. And so they see the first 3 emails before the webinar starts, and then they get the last 3 emails after they saw the webinar event. What I've been doing a lot, and it's been getting me anywhere from an 8x return on ad spend to a 20x return on ad spend, is what I'll do is after the webinar event is over, I'll wait like 4 or 5 hours, because a lot of people will sign up, they'll be late or they want to watch the replay or whatever it might be. And so I'll go into JetWebinar, I'll download all the attendees. I don't know if you froze there or not. Oh, there you go. Yeah, so I'll download the entire email list, I'll upload it into Facebook, and then I'll create an ad specifically that's targeted for them. So I'll create an ad for people who showed up and left early and said, hey, I saw that you attended the webinar but had to leave early, and then I'll go into my copy there. Or, hey, thanks for attending the webinar event. I noticed that you didn't take action, or they didn't buy. So based on how they engage with the webinar event, I'll segment the email list, upload it into Facebook, and then create customized messages for those people. And that converts really, really well. So
that's a good one.
Strong recommendation.
You hear that? So I got my buddy Tim on, and he has just put together his first webinar. He said he just got another sale today. So good work, Tim. Keep it up. I know he's going to be reviewing this stream, catching this replay. So Tim, check out that hack right there. I think you'll like it. And Tim says, unless you're Arne, then you do 24 exit sales emails. Got to get that follow-up game strong, man.
That's right.
For sure. Cool. Well, we're just about running out of time here, but I wanted to remind everybody, number one, if you guys have not seen up in the title or down below in the title, wherever the hell the title is at, you guys can get some more of these webinar hacks, just like that last one, to help you guys make your webinar profitable, successful, set it up the right way the first time. So go ahead and type webinar hacks down in the comments. Henry's got another gift for you guys, a little training for free. And, I always say, value first. So anybody who's showing up here in the MEC, doing MEC TV, I always make them bring something awesome for you guys along with the interview. So you want to explain a little bit about what that gift is and what's in that training?
Sure. Yeah, I'll actually only pull it up here. Here. You have the link? Okay. So essentially what it is it's something that I put together. And what I wanted to do was cover go a little bit more training in depth into like what we were talking about now. Mm-hmm. So what we've done, looks like I got the link here, just sent to me. So what we've done is we broke it down into, it's a 3-part video series. So I show you I actually created a blueprint that shows every piece of a webinar campaign that you need from beginning to end. So that includes the, setting up the ad, the registration page, the indoctrination email sequence, what happens 6 months after your webinar event is over, and everything in between. So what I do there is I show you how to go through, structure it, position it for your business, and then from there how to go and create a webinar campaign for your business. And then the last training is how to consistently add 100 webinar registrants a day. And nice. so like that training is, you know, it's I should charge for it, but I wanted to create it for, you know, people in our community, people in your community, so they can get access to that and you know, leverage it for their business.
Nice, love it. Hear that, guys? Go ahead, type webinar hacks. We'll get you this training sent over in a little bit. But yeah, man, any closing words of advice for everybody out there who wants to learn how to do this stuff and get it off the ground?
Is this live right now? Can we share this with everyone? We'll share it after the call. Okay. Any last minute, let me think. That's a good, I'm trying to think. That's a good question. Last minute, you know what? The biggest thing is to not overcomplicate it. It's all about simplicity at that point. So if you're hosting an event, you're just getting started, keep it as simple as possible. I know when I was first getting started all the way to now, like I still overcomplicate things. And I noticed the more simple I make it, the higher conversions it gets for some reason. So just keep it simple. Don't overthink it. And, you know, and if you're not getting results, you know, your first time or second time or third time, like it usually is going to take a little, you have to bat a few times before you hit a home run. So
yeah, absolutely. So consistency, simplicity, any other big major themes you see in those most successful webinars?
No, I think it's pretty, I mean, if you're, that's pretty much it. I mean, as far as just getting started for the experts, like that's, I think that those are the most important things at this point.
Definitely. Absolutely. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for swinging by, showing off what you got, sharing some stuff. So everybody, make sure to leave a comment and say thank you to Henry for showing up. He could be anywhere in the world right now, and he's hanging out here with us, sharing all his tricks. So really appreciate you, man. And thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me. We'll talk soon.
Definitely. All right, guys, go type webinar hacks. We'll get you hooked up, and catch you next time on MEC TV. Later.